Hey, everybody.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Night Bite.
Yeah, I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily, and we are excited to be here on a special Wednesday.
Yeah, special Wednesday night. It's not even Thursday. I might have even wrote Thursday in one of my shares, I think.
That's funny,
Whoops.
because it is just such a habit. But one of the things that we do always highlight is, events coming up, and one of the things that we are going to be stopping by at is Battle on Bago.
Yeah.
So if you are going, give us a shout out and tell us where you're going to be, and we'll come and visit you or whatever. But I think, we're even going to be hanging out with, a few different company and seeing some different people and
Oh, yeah. We'll
having
be
a
there.
great time.
Be there chatting and hanging out, and that'll be a fun time. I've never been there. You've never been there, so should be cool.
And I am determined to at least fish for a little bit, so we will see how that goes. And it should be a really great time.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's bring in.
Yeah, we actually have, a really awesome person named Dan with Cold Snap. So, Dan Hogue, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Glad to be here. Hey, my name's Dan Hogue with Cold Snap Outdoors. Been the president of Cold Snap Outdoors since 2002 when we dreamed up this idea for a snap-on blade protector and got it patented. So here we are just a few, 19 years later. And one of the things I always laughed at, I asked Dave Gims one time, and I go, Dave, did you ever think it would get this big as we're standing around looking at, a dozen ice shacks? And he looks at me and says, well, yeah, I just didn't think it would take so long. So I guess, I feel a little bit like Dave when I say, yeah, I just didn't think it would take so long. So, but glad to be here and look forward to spending a little time this evening and talking to you.
Yeah, well, and certainly talking to the people at home as well. We are live, so if anybody has questions, about Cold Snap or about fishing, put that in the comments, and we will certainly get to that and try to answer that the best that we can.
Absolutely.
But before we go too far, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned, I just call it the Cold Snap cover. So it is for the augers. Tell us what it's actually called, because I know you guys actually really well for that.
Well, I know we call it the Cold Snap auger cover, but it's actually a Cold Snap blade protector, I guess, more technically. And what it does is protects your blades so that you don't have to get your hands down there to put that beaded cord on, which tends to break. And then you got to buy one or two of those a year. So all of our Cold Snap covers are lifetime guaranteed, too. So hands-free. So when you go to put it on, you just basically line up the auger and set it in. It clicks on and you're ready to go. So you can have your blades protected in a matter of a second or two, and you can take it off just about as easily. So basically you just leave the weight down, step on one side and lift it out, and you don't get your hands anywhere down there. And, over the years, I've had all kinds of ghoulish pictures sent to me where people who had cut their hand from the old type of auger cover, and that's why they were buying a Cold Snap cover. But I've never shared them online, but I could have kept a big file of them. So it's gratifying seeing people that are using that to keep their hands away from the blades and protect their pets. A lot of times they're out fishing with, or their kids too. So if it's easy to put on, then you're going to put it on. And so many people that don't have a Cold Snap cover tend to take off their cover when they get on the lake and leave it off all day long. And then at the end of the day, they'll go and put it back on. Where if you know anybody that has a Cold Snap cover, and I'd suspect you guys may have one already, you snap it on after you're done drilling a hole and just lay it on the ice and it's protected. So if it's easy, you'll keep it covered.
And that's a really good point, because even you're mentioning pets and kids, but sometimes even just covering that auger from myself. I know that sounds like a really stupid thing, but sometimes you just get wrapped up in fishing. You turn to change your jig, you turn to get your plastic, you turn to get back to your hole. And even just something like kicking with your boot into that blade can be really terrible. I mean, if nothing else, put a slit in your boot and that ends the day pretty quick as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, and even worse, a lot of people have it up on the auger rack of their machine, and then it's up at an angle where you can cut your arms or anywhere in your torso, or you ripped your coat, or or you come around and catch your hand on it when you're slipping on the ice and cut your wrist or anything. So yeah, so having it protected is definitely the way to go.
And then we're getting some questions. So what auger does it fit?
Well, that's, early on, the very first auger cover we had fit an 8-inch Jiffy. And I think we started there because we thought it was probably one of the most, at the time, most popular augers. Plus, it had that flat plate on the bottom, so it was easy to try to design something to work with it. But now, I mean, it's easier to list off augers that it doesn't fit, or, our brands and sizes that it doesn't fit, than to list off all the ones it does fit. So we've got almost all the popular sizes, all the popular brands, from K-Drill to Nils, the Strike Master, the Light Flight, the Eskimos, the Pistol Bits, all of that stuff we've got, a very broad range of covers for. And we typically, it takes a season or so to develop a new cover, just because we want to make sure there's going to be enough call for it, but also because it takes, an enormous amount of upfront money to build an injection mold that's, a solid block of steel with a cavity of just the cover in it. It takes an enormous amount of machining to get it to that point. So it takes months of work to build one. And we want to make sure that it's going to be something that'll catch on in the marketplace. So typically we lag behind a year on a new cover, but we have, right now probably 15 different augers that it fits on.
And you're talking about the injection molding process and all of that, and that's really exciting. But one of the things that I know about the covers is their durability. So sometimes people think injection molding, they think plastic, they think ice and cold, and that doesn't always go together. But speak a little bit to that durability.
Yeah, one of the things that I remember best was when we had sent auger covers early on to Strike Master. Now it's owned by Normark. But they tested it in front of all their pro staff, and if any of the pro staff were ever there at that meeting, they could raise their hand and say that. But they froze a cover in the freezer overnight and took it out and hit it with a big hammer on the stage in front of everybody, and it bounced. No breakage whatsoever. So, and that's why we feel comfortable, putting a lifetime warranty on it. If you ever break it, have any issues, no questions asked. You pay shipping and handling, and we get you a new one. Or if you show up in person at the factory, we just swap it out, or at a show. And that includes the band as well. So we've had people come up at shows. We'll usually get 5 to 6, depending on the show, that say, well, my band's a little loose. So we'll hand them a new band while we're at the show, and it's no charge. We're fishermen just like you guys are, and we want to make sure that you're happy with your purchase from Cold Snap. And we're here not just to sell you a cover one time in your life, but most anglers will buy 2 or 3 or 4 in a lifetime, and we want to keep growing along with that, and have you go out and buy one for all the new augers you buy.
So with that, I always wait until later in the show to give people a hard time, but this is the perfect opportunity here. I gotta give a shout out to my Razor auger. I'm loving that, and I cannot wait until you come out with the matching, hopefully orange cover or black or something.
Well, if you want an orange one, you just rattle can that thing, and that Razor auger, if you use one of our Strike Master covers on it, should snap right on there.
We have the 8-inch. It's just a little too big.
The auger's a little too big, or the cover's a little.
The cover's a little too big, because I think our flighting is a little bit smaller than 8 inches.
Yeah. So what you'd want to do on that is that you're free to modify it, and if you have any, and it won't affect the performance. But basically, you pull the band off it, and where the two halves come together, you just take a tin snips and take a little bit of plastic out of each side, and then it'll close a little bit more. And, if the band is a little loose, we can just get you a different band, because we do have shorter bands too that fit on a 6-inch auger cover, and we could just swap it out and put that one on. But typically, if, you're only a 1/2 inch off, that regular band that's on there is still plenty tight. So, yeah, but if you still got the cover, go ahead and just try to take a little sliver out of the middle where it comes together, and then you'll be able to close that gap. So if it's a half an inch or quarter inch or something, you should easily be able to still use it and it'll work perfect.
Well,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's actually excellent, and that's a perfect tip. And Josh is a tinkerer, so I'm sure he might even get one on that side.
And that's what we did early on with, like some of the auger covers that we just didn't want to spend, the money on to have a huge injection mold made. We'd spend the money to have a small piece made, and then we'd modify an existing cover by pop riveting some parts onto it. And so early on we were doing similar things.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's super cool.
We have a bunch of questions.
Well, and so to all the people asking about new products, hold that thought.
Yeah, we're getting to it.
Yeah, because we will get to it. But we cannot pass up the other thing that everyone is talking about. And I actually have it in front of me. So one of these toothpicks, the T2, or is there T1? Tell us about, what this actually is called.
All right. So that's actually called the T2 toothpick. And the T2, for those who haven't heard the story, the original T2 is Todd from Illinois. And he's one of our long-time pro staff members. And I've always told the guys that, hey, if you come up with a good idea for us, I'll name the product after you. So Todd comes up, he goes, you really need to, I've been using these, before, and it's awesome, but you need to do this different and this different. And they hounded me for months about this. And I'm like, I don't see it, guys. I don't know. So anyhow, he sent me something, and I went to the factory and I said, hey, can you make me an injection mold for this? Only change this and add this. And they did it. They built me this mold, and they made me like 500 of them. And I'm like, how long is it going to take to sell 500 of these things to recoup my costs of this mold? And I don't think they lasted more than a couple of weeks. And then, we kept making more and more, and they caught on like wildfire. And then probably about a year, maybe two later, I came up with a little modification that I actually have, this is why it's patented. In that bottom of that V, there's a little bit of a notch that goes crossways. You probably won't be able to see it because it's real small but on the bigger version, you can actually see it. And in the little version, it's there. Mm-hmm. So if you ever try to, if you think of your finger here as like the hook shank, that V does is you can lock it in so you can actually twist a hook out. If the V was smooth, like it was initially, when you go to twist it, it just slides off.
Yeah.
But there's a little catch in the bottom of that V that I patented that made all the difference to be able to twist the hook out and not wreck your jigs, not knock the paint off. But yeah, that's, if you would have told me back when Todd mentioned this to me that, you're going to sell thousands of these things, and every angler on TV you're going to eventually see will have one hanging on their jacket and social media, I would have just said, I don't see it. But I take some things on faith, and I got another thing, and I can't even talk about it but that I think is going to be as killer, that hopefully will come out next year. Similar thing. Pro staffer came to me and said, hey, this is a good idea. And I'm like, I don't know. But then somebody I really respected also said, you should think about this. And now I'm like, all right. So that one's going in the queue to do. So I'm excited about that one. And when that comes out, I think it's going to be a game changer.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of chats for the T2 toothpick about the different colors. So I have this pink one. There's the traditional yellow one. I'm hearing that there is green out now as well.
Yeah, there's a green one. I hesitate to call it Kawasaki green, but that in my head, that's the right color Pantone number probably. And why the different colors? Well, it's just people always ask, what about a pink one? What about a green one? And, Craig Euler was the main reason. He said, why don't you make a green one? And they're like, okay. So you'd be surprised. I think the green sold about as much as the yellow this year, and the pink, are always, right in there as well. But green was a popular one this last year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and especially really fun if you have a whole troop of people that you're bringing out on the ice. If you are a family, if you have different kids, if they're having a lanyard or attach it to their bag, and then they all have their own toothpick and can tell their stuff apart. So, that's a really nice thing. Plus, to teach them to be able to take a fish off the hook and to be able to do it with a tool like that is really an awesome thing.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that little tool is that if you were to go to a Bass Pro or Cabela's and you just look for that retractor, like you'd see on somebody's trout fishing vest, they charge more for that than we do for the the retractor and the hook removal tool. So we're keeping it affordable for anglers as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So I guess what else is next? You guys always, when I think of Cold Snap, I think of visiting you guys at the shows and expos, and you always have such a full booth. And that's my favorite thing, is kind of looking around each year and seeing what's out. So what else do you have for us?
Well, that's one of the neat things about, this industry, is that we've created a lot of friendships and a lot of alliances, and that's what makes it fun. I mean, so many of the people that we've met, like you guys, I consider friends, and we hang out, not during the ice season anymore. People will come out and we'll go fishing in the summer and just hang out at times. And I've made, I would say most of my friends outside of work are all people I've met through ice fishing, and not all of them that I considered, decent friends have I met that often face to face. There's people that I talk to almost daily that either through, messaging apps or on Facebook or somehow, that, it's such a big community, the whole ice fishing community, that, it's really something that I've grown to love. I mean, the ice fishing community is awesome. If anybody ever needs anything, and I think back to, and you guys maybe remember the story, but some teenage boy in Minnesota lost all his fishing gear like earlier in the year. And, I think it was stained with clam, came to me and said, hey, people are kind of taking up a collection. And one of the things that we saw that he lost was this ice rod case. And it looks like the ones that you guys sell. I'll be happy to send him one. I wanted to, you feel bad for, the underdog, the poor little guy that lost all his gear that he'd spent all year saving for. So those are feel-good stories that I just don't think you see in every other industry, but it's really cool to see how the ice fishing community will rally around and help somebody out.
Yeah.
And you've all seen the posts as well, like, hey, I found somebody's bag of rods at this lake and landing, and they get it back to them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That is always so cool.
Yeah. And more, I bet it's about 50% of the time people will get their stuff back. What are the odds of that?
Well, and I love hearing about this, because almost every show, every time that we talk to people, one of the things that we continue to hear all season long is about being a good sportsman, and so if you are the person who finds that gear on the ice, if you are that person who knows of somebody, they in need or whatever in any way, that's what we are there for. And that is part of what makes, I was going to say ice fishing, but even open water is so great.
Yeah. Ice fishermen are out there. The real sportsmen in this industry are out picking up the slobs, beer cans, and cigarette butts and garbage. I can't imagine those people are actually would consider themselves ice fishermen. I think they're probably just drinkers and slobs who just happen to be ice fishing. A real sportsman and a real fisherman would never think to pollute the environment like that and leave garbage on the ice. I think those are people that just happen to be on the ice, that maybe your ice fishing is like the second or third thing they're there for.
Well, and we've been hearing a lot this year also about new people on the ice. So, if you see a group out there that's struggling, or maybe, not being a great steward, we're not here to tell anybody how to do anything. But if you could do it in a way that's helping somebody out, again, that is the goal.
Exactly. And I keep a stack of T2 toothpicks in the back of my truck. And when I'm coming off the ice and I see somebody fishing that doesn't have a hook remover, I just hand mine to them off my jacket and, tell them, hey, enjoy, have a nice day. Or if I see a kid, I'll hand them a new one. Or, when we're down in Okoboji fishing, there's ways to get to the canal that that you can go through private land or private property, and you don't have to walk all the way around. So just like when you go pheasant hunting, you'll go press flesh with the landowner and bribe them with a bag of fillets or a couple hook removers, and then we can just walk down 20 feet down the back of this house and go fish, and we don't have to walk all the way around. So yeah, I keep them for that too.
Well, I have a stack of them in the back of my truck, but that's just because I use them that much.
I've got them laying all over the place. I usually have 2 or 3 in the back of the boat, some laying on the counter or by the dash. And yeah, but it seems like what happens to me is I need one on my bibs, because a lot of times I'll take my coat off and leave it in the fish house, and then I go out to pull a fish off a tip up or an Arctic Warrior, and I don't have my hook remover. It's on my jacket, so I got to borrow get over here, and then I can rub it off their coat with the lanyard and peel off my hook, and then we go back. But so it's almost like you need 2 of them, because a lot of times you take your jacket off and you still need to have one on your bibs.
Right.
Yeah, that is for sure. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, I mean, I guess as far as some of the new products that you got out this year, what do you have?
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to announce that I think you've seen quite a few of them on social media this year, but the Catch bump boards, those, bright yellow, sturdy, plastic, they called carbonite. I'm not sure what that is. It's a Han Solo type reference or what. But they are seriously a very nice bump board. And, that's another thing I missed the boat on. Craig Euler was hounding me about, you got to make a great little bump board. We need something like that in the ice industry. And I was like, maybe, okay, maybe. And I just kept putting it off. And then, boom, this thing explodes on the market. And they're all over the place. And I've had a chance to talk to the guy who's the inventor and the guy who sells them on the internet. And he seems like a great guy. And he was kind of mentored by one of the people that I have a great deal of respect for, Debbie Compton. So I'm happy for him, and I'm happy to sell them. I didn't have to build the injection mold, and we still are able to sell them, bring them to market. And quite frankly, it's probably better than I could have hatched out anyhow. So we sell those on our site now, and I'm real happy. And we've went through damn near 2 big cases worth already, and inside of 2 weeks. And being somewhat late in the ice season, I would say we're in the beginning of the 4th quarter. Wouldn't you guys say that's probably a good analogy?
Yeah. I hate to say that.
And I just ordered 2 more cases. So Catch is KETCH, and we have the 16-inch bump boards. And I have 3 fish houses, and I just threw one in each fish house because I didn't want to be without. And I'll probably end up throwing one in the Ranger too under the seat. So I have one there too. So I can see why people might own 2 or 3 of them. And it would be great for the boat too, for anybody that's going to be fishing open water for panfish. They make some larger models, but for now we're keeping the 16-inch in stock.
Yeah, at 16 inches, we'll probably have to look into one.
Well, I am also thinking it is super timely for the year, and partially because, all of these tournaments that are virtual this year, and they're really great time to be able to follow along and see people's pictures, and even sometimes a release video that's really fun. But, you need to have an approved bump board. And so to have something with you that's sturdy, that's reliable, that is approved, that is a huge deal. Plus that 16-inch, that's a great length. If I'm catching a big crappie, come on.
If it's things over a 16-inch bump board, yeah, you could pat yourself on the back with both things. But that is a neat thing about that. The way that the numbers are on there, they're embedded in the plastic, and the yellow and the black. It really photographs well. You can really tell the exact length in a photo, unlike any other bump board, I think. So good or bad, it's gonna take a lot of the BS out of it, and you're going to see lots of 10-inch gills that probably measure 9 3/4. Oh, I caught these 10-inch bluegills. Yeah, let's see it on the bump board again.
The other thing that size is perfect for, though, is we spent a little bit of time recently and built some hole hopper buckets. And so, between how it's set up, we're looking for something, I was thinking up to 18 inches. So 16-inch is perfect for fitting in a bucket.
Yeah,
Yeah,
5-gallon bucket is about 17 inches. So
Yeah, I think the actual length is probably a little bit longer than 16 inches because you have a bump part. So I would guess the total length is 17 to 17 and a half. And if I would visualize it sitting in a bucket, I think maybe only the tail end might stick up. I'm not real sure how high a 5-gallon bucket is. That
yeah, 5-gallon buckets are about 17 inches because we just had to measure to get bump boards, and we actually bought a little metal one that's 12 inches just to put on the top of our bucket because a bucket is 12 inches wide.
Yeah,
and then we put it in there and measured up the distance, and it's actually 17 inches to the top, so it'd almost be flush.
It's going to be really close. And, this is a real sturdy plastic, which is better than the metal, because what happens in weather like we've had now, you get a wet fish and you lay it on a metal bump board, it froze right to it.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't stick to the plastic one by freezing to it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you literally could take it and whack it on the ice and it's not going to break. It's pretty sturdy. So that's a new offering that, we didn't invent, but we're happy to be one of the retailers for, because it really serves a need, and it's a top-notch product that, I'm glad to stand behind it. If you manage to break it, we'll figure out how to get you a new one. So that's good. New covers this year. And the biggest seller is that 8-inch Light Flight, Strike Master, and the 6-inch Light Flight Strike Master. So we've sold, hundreds and hundreds of those things. And so if you do have that new 24 volt or the other version, that Strike Master has, that's one of the things that you might want to look at. If you have the Light Flight version, you can have a snap-on blade cover for that to keep your blades protected.
Nice.
Yeah, that's way awesome.
And we always have sold. Just it amazes me, how many of our reel wrap kits we'll sell. And the custom rod builders, have been very supportive of us, and we get them reel wrap bands in bulk. You guys are in Minnesota or Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
So, Pat Magdalano with Mag's Custom Rods, I've seen some of the neat stuff he's been doing. You got JT Customs. A lot of times, they're putting them right on at the shows. Mm-hmm. Anybody out there that does custom rods, a lot of those guys, they're all utilizing our reel wraps because they're small, but they hold tight. And if you've got artwork on the handle, it's not covering up like if you taped it on, it would. So, that's something we've done for a number of years. And it's just surprising. They just keep on, that line keeps on growing too.
Well, and the nice thing about it is you have, the tool that comes kind of in the kit. And so for people who have tried to use different bands before and they've struggled, or use spoons, or, I've seen all different kinds of things online.
Popsicle sticks.
Much easier than that.
Yeah, and that's the rub. So how do you get, if you have a split grip, how do you bridge the gap? Well, we made the tool, that cone that used to come up on the handle, but we also included in the Pro Kit a bridge tube that will slide across there, and you can run the band all the way up from the little nub grip on the end all the way to the front of where you seat the reel. So, and that comes right in the kit, and there's enough in that kit. There's 4 different colors, all the band colors we sell, and there's enough for let me see, I think 8 rods in that kit. And what is it, $6, $8, $9? It's $8 or $9 for that. You can do 8 rods. So, and it comes with all the tools you need. So you can just put it in your drawer, and when you have more rods, you buy more reels. And what people really like is, so you have, a nice reel, 4-pound test, and you use it all year for ice fishing. And then crappie season comes in the spring, and you've got your long rod that you just bought. Now, where do I go buy another reel, a spool of line, or hey, I can just reel these, put these reel wrap bands, roll them backwards, forward, pull my reel off, put it in the reel seat on the long rod, and I'm out fishing in minutes. That's what's kind of nice. You can swap things out easily, and then you can color code so that when you have them in your reel bag, you don't have to pull the whole thing out to see what the action is or what lures on it. You can say all the orange ones are pike rods, or all the green ones are bluegill rods. So yeah, so that's what people do, and to kind of make it easier to organize your gear too.
And we're talking about organizing like that. So I think I've seen blue. I think I've seen green. What are your colors that you have?
Yeah, so there's blue, there's green, and there's white and orange.
Oh,
so, yeah. So that's our 4 colors that we have. And while we're on the on organization, you guys, I think we talked a little bit before the show started, but we're real excited to announce that we're going to have a whole line of ice rod cases. And so these are already tested and proven designs that you may have seen before. The company that we ended up buying the product line from was called Expedition Outdoors. It's been in business for 15 to 20 years. And one of the things they're strong in was doing store brands. So a lot of the popular rod cases you might have bought at Shields or some other big retailer that wasn't called Expedition, but they're store branded, and then we'll be the importer of that and be handling all that going forward. So we're real excited about that. We'll also have our own Cold Snap branded products in there as well. There's right now there's going to be 5 different rod cases. There'll be 2 hard cases, a 36 and a 45. And then 3 different soft bags. One will be a hard tube where, it's your traditional ice rod with a tube in it. But the thing that I was impressed with this hard tube case is that typically you could grab that tube and bend it, like any rod case that you guys have seen before, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel like it's like a real thin plastic tube that if you stepped on it, you could squish it. Well, the hard tube case on the rod case line that we bought feels like the damn thing's about an eighth inch thick. It feels like a PVC tube that you could step on and jump on with both feet and it wouldn't even flex. So, just sturdy, big zippers, all YKK, the good quality nylon on the side, not the flimsy, thin stuff. So just done right. And we're going to continue that and improve the product line going forward. And again, it's got some really cool branding with the Cold Snap Crab, the Cold Snap Outdoors. There's going to be a really cool soft-sided bag that'll have a zipper down the left side, a zipper down the right side. It'll hold 4 rods on each side. And then it'll also have pockets on each side for your gear and any of your tackle that you're going to carry along with. So that's a soft-sided gear bag that'll hold 8 rods. We'll have a version that'll be similar to that that'll hold 4. And then the hard tube case, and then 2 hard-sided, like legit reinforced with aluminum strapping, square airline shippable type rod cases for you guys that are getting on a plane and going to Cascade. This would be what you would ship all your best rods in. Something you could lock. Something you could jump on and the people at the airline could throw out the door on the tarmac and it wouldn't phase it a bit. But they sandwich the rods so tight in there and the foam is thick enough that you don't need to fold your reel handle down to close the lid. And then if you put your rods in there and you shake this thing up and down, they won't all go to the bottom. They'll stay right where you put them. And my 36-inch case that I've had them for about 5 years already. So, I'm really familiar with it. And I was impressed so much with it that we bought this rod case line from them. And up to this point, I've been buying pallets of them to sell, but we just went one extra step, bought the company out. So, yeah, so we're excited about it. They're going to be a very nice addition to the lineup, along with our own custom rod lines that we have made. And I know you guys maybe have seen those at the shows, but that's something we're immensely proud of as well.
When we're talking about, these rods, and the accessories that we're putting on them and, making all these products our favorite products, but to be able to fly across the ice, get to your fishing spot and, have it be in one case, that is a huge and important factor in the fishing process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's good to have an option. So if you want to have a hard case option, that you want your everything like completely protected. Like it could fall out of the back of your truck and tumble down the interstate and everything is cool. Or if you want a little more economy option where, you're still going to be careful with it, but it still protects everything from snow and ice, and there's some padding. You have some options at different price points as well. Yeah, so I mean, and then the other, I guess we made an upgrade to the ice rod line where we did different eyelets on it. So we went to fly guides on it just so that it would shed water better, and they're a little bit bigger diameter. And we've sold through all of our seesaw dead stick rods this year. So early in the season here to be out of those and out of stock on those, but yeah, they've been a huge seller. And the reason that is because, in states where you can fish multiple lines, they are paired perfectly for that Clam Outdoors Arctic Warrior. And you can actually reel your fish in rather than have to hand over hand it like on a tip up. Cool. So we sold a lot of those for this year. That was a recent thing last week. But the other three in the lineup would be a medium 30-inch. That's all solid carbon blank, solid cork handle. We call them factory customs. And what exactly does that mean? Well, that blank is an award-winning blank from a rod builder here in South Dakota that won the rod build off for 2 years in a row at St. Paul. They had that rod build off for a couple years, and he won it both years. And these are blanks that competed against Thorne Brothers and all the other big players in the market back then. And then the other two blanks are the same thing. They were in the product line that company sold, so we had them cloned overseas, and we import them all ourselves, so there's no middleman. So you're basically getting a rod that somewhere else you might pay $80 to $110 for $49.99. And the reason is we import them directly. We don't have to go through 3 different steps. And, we have the rods made at the source of all the components, where all the components are made. And one of the things that I'm proud of is we'll have custom rod builders come up to the booth and they'll look at the rods and they're all splined correctly too. So they'll roll it and they'll look at it and, this is actually splined correctly. So, in the past, a lot of rods built overseas kind of had a bad knock on them, and we look at them and visually inspect them before they go out too. But we've been, shocked at the quality and the care that goes into making them. We haven't found a rod that wasn't splined correctly. And out of all of the hundreds that we've ordered in the last 2 years. So, yeah, we've been impressed with them. They've been a great seller. Once you fish them, you're going to say, wow, I can't believe they only charge $49 for this rod. This is a super quality piece, and they're nice, very nice.
Nice.
Well, and I do remember, seeing them at a show once or twice, and, you can only quite tell so much at a show without actually fishing from it. But, a good amount of sensitivity in a rod like that. And, you're saying things like that are being sold out this year. And that's, again, a common trend, more people on the ice or getting out on the ice more often and all of that. And when you have a really affordable product, things like that are going to sell.
Mm-hmm. One of the big things that I remember from dealing with the buyers on one of the biggest retailers of ice fishing here in the States was that he told me that 8 to 10 million new anglers started this year than the previous year. So just think of if only 15 or 20% tried ice fishing, how many more people have just entered the sport? They're going to try it for the first time this year. And I think that's a quantum leap for our industry and for our sport to have, 8 to 10 million new possible anglers, and a bunch of them are probably down south. So you'd have to say maybe 5 or 6 million probably aren't where there's ice, but to have, possible 4 million be in the ice belt, that's incredible.
That truly is incredible. That really is. Yeah. It's hard to imagine almost, actually.
It is. It's a big number, but we're seeing it. Sales, even without the shows last year, sales were up big last year. and all the retailers we're talking to. And see, this is the time of year where we're meeting with all the buyers at the big store levels, and they're putting in their orders for the next ice season already. Can you believe that? So we're just entering the fourth quarter of this season. They're already buying for the first quarter of next season. So, but the time lag to import things, to prototype and all that is huge. And it really takes probably 5-6 months to be able to get the lead times down so they can get it in the hands of the consumer come next November.
Yeah. Well, and all of that work that goes into it is, clearly people are loving the product. We have a lot of comments coming in, about all the different things that we've talked about tonight, and people really, really are happy. Thumbs up even.
Yeah. It's rewarding to see, I still smile every time I watch a YouTube channel that they're using a toothpick or they have an auger cover, or I watch a Jason Mitchell Outdoors and they're on Cascade Lake and 3 of the 5 people fishing, they're wearing a toothpick. That type of stuff makes me very happy. And so it is rewarding. And, I do at times have people come up and say, hey, I really appreciate, and we do a lot of stuff for veterans organizations, veterans fishing, or kids fishing events. And what I've told people, and if anybody has an event that's listening to this, if they have a kids fishing derby or they're taking veterans on the ice, by all means, send me an email or reach out. I'm happy to donate product to those events. We want to give back. We've been blessed with, a very healthy, thriving business, and we love to get kids, and we really want to support our veterans as well. So yeah, by all means, I'm soliciting people to call me I'll give you donations for those types of things. I never turn anybody down for kids or veterans type things. And I don't think I've ever turned down any women fishing events either, for that being, for that order, I guess. But
well, that's awesome to hear. So you'll probably be hearing from us next fall, because the Ice Junkies just gave $13,000 to the high school fishing programs in 3 different states.
Yeah.
And so we always have a big raffle with that group at their meet and greet, and so we'll probably be hitting you up and putting the little crab on our poster.
I'd be happy to. That's a worthy cause. We support. Again, anybody who raises their hand and says, "Hey, we have a fishing team in our high school," and we send toothpicks out and sometimes some other promotional products just to, And so I think there's one in the cities that we support, the Albert Lee high school ice fishing. I'm originally from Glenville, Minnesota, which is just south of Albert Lee. Right now I'm in sunny Renner, South Dakota at the house. But I grew up just the southern Minnesota on the river.
Awesome.
And so, for people who are excited about hearing about this, how do they follow Cold Snap?
Well, if you ever want to know what's going on with Cold Snap, you can always follow us on Facebook. So a lot of the most up-to-date announcements are all put out there first, and then are filtered to the other layers of social media, like Instagram or Twitter, about the same time. We also, we'll utilize the old-fashioned press release like we did this week with the product announcement. And the last time I looked, it had like almost 30,000 views. So, I mean, it's getting a big reach. But yeah, anybody who isn't already, friends with us on Facebook, go ahead and click that and add us on there. That's where all the newest product announcement is. We also have for our pro staff members, which we literally have probably the second biggest pro team in the pro staff in the ice fishing industry behind Clam. And I couldn't be prouder of those guys. They are out volunteering for kids and veterans events. They're doing on ice demo days. They did one in Rapid City here just the last couple of weeks. There's 62 pro fishermen are coming from probably a dozen different states next week, and a big majority of those are Cold Snap pro staffers. So I really appreciate their service to helping out the taking boys from the Rapid City Club for Boys out ice fishing. A lot of them for their first time. So yeah, I'm proud of our pro staff, and they put in the time and the effort, and we try to help support them in what they're doing. Just get out of their way, basically.
Well, and even in addition to that, as far as Cold Snap, we have the website posted in the comments a few times. So to those of you who did that, thank you. So I'm seeing coldsnapoutdoors.com.
Yep.
And
take you to the website.
Yeah, and so I imagine for any of the things that we talked about tonight, if you are looking for specs or different product information, or to remind yourself of what the colors are for the T2 toothpick, I'm sure all of that information is there.
There's also videos too. So if you went on there and said, I've seen this bait called the Craigie. What is that all about? Well, you could go on there, click the link, takes you to the bait, but also right below it's going to be a video of what it looks like in the water. That's a cool thing. That was thought up by Craig Euler, one of our pro staffers and one of my good friends. And another pro staffer, Scott Brower, actually designed the bait and gave him some prototypes to fish. And he was like, these things are lights out. So let's go to full production. So we have them out on the market, and there's a few of them taking off here and there. But then, lo and behold, Field and Stream Magazine puts out an article that says, here's our top 20 ice fishing lures of all times, and ranked it as number 5. And it's taken off. We sold, I could show you pictures of the boxes that we had stacked up that went to Sportsman's Warehouse in Utah. They bought, just boxes and boxes of them. But those things, if you're a trout fisherman out there, or walleyes or perch, these are a great big shrimp. It's a 3-inch long shrimp that's made with the same plastisol and Mackie juice as your traditional clam outdoors Mackie ones, but it's just in a supersized megabyte. And trout just absolutely love these things. I mean, it looks like something that they eat, only it's Big Mac size instead of a snack bite size. So yeah, we've done really well with those two, and it's neat to see something that another pro staffer designed, get picked up in the publications and get some credit for, and I could show you a page that has 20 fish on it, and fishermen holding these massive fish out that caught their personal best fish with a Craigie in the last 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And they broke, and some of them we've replaced the picture because they ended up breaking their own record, their own personal best the next season or later in the season. So I had a brief ad with it set up earlier in the year. I should probably revisit it again, but that was really cool to see. We kept pictures of what people caught their personal best on a Craigie, and I mean the pictures of the just hog fish, lake trout and brown trout and rainbow trout. I think there was some walleyes in there too, but just really rewarding to see that.
That's so cool.
Very cool.
And to have a resource, available like your website with the different tips, with different videos and everything like that, that really, really is a great resource for people to visit. So whether that's for a product or whether that's for a tip or a trick, definitely a great place to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we appreciate you being on with us today.
I appreciate your time tonight. I enjoyed this.
Yeah. So we're going to say goodbye to you in a minute. But for now, we'll say, I guess, goodbye for right now, and then talk a little bit, sum up a little bit.
All right. We'll see you in a bit, Dan.
So that is a whole lot of awesome information, from rods to cases to all the different accessories that you need to be a fisherman. Definitely checking out Cold Snap website.
Stuff. Yeah, all kinds of new stuff. Some cool bait options, rod stuff. Very cool.
We will be this weekend at Battle on Bago, visiting around. So again, if you are there, hit us up, let us know how you're doing, send us a picture of your fish. But if there's other events coming up, post about that. We would love to share about it, maybe even visit 1 or 2.
Absolutely.
And otherwise, let us know how your fishing season is going. So thanks for being with us, and
participation.
And we'll see you next Thursday on the next edition of the Night Bite.
Night, guys.